So this is where we get into your reporting, which I think is so important and fascinating. And there's this systematic skew towards the positive because I'm going to tell you about my wins. I'm going to show you the screenshot of my, winning trade or the options bet or whatever it is. I'm never going to show you the L's. I'm not going to show you the ruined relationships, the, broken trust, the dig myself into a financial hole, the sense of despondence. And so I have some friends who've gotten themselves into trouble with gambling. I've never done the reporting you have done. So how did you go about getting in touch with people who've been on the losing end of this? Because most of them don't like to be very public about it.
This was one of the hardest stories I have ever reported in my 8 years at the Wall Street Journal. I led our coverage of the meme stock mania, found people who were willing to talk about their meme stock wins. It's easy to find people who will boast about their growing portfolios. Yeah. Getting people on the record, which I needed for this article, for the Journal, was very, very challenging. I mean, I cast an incredibly wide net. I spoke with dozens and dozens of investors around the country, in other countries, met with them in person, heard all of their stories, and then a few decided to go on the record with me. I also showed up to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. I, of course, got the permission of the meeting's leaders and said, hey, I'm working on this really important article.
Wow.
And I want to know what's going on. And it was very, very alarming to be sitting in the back of this church basement and people are sharing stories about how they lost it all sports betting, how they lost it all betting on horse races, and then also how they lost it all trading ETFs, trading options, trading cryptocurrencies. I heard one person say, I told my boss I can't go to that cryptocurrency conference next week because it's just too triggering to be surrounded by all these crypto fans after I lost it all gambling on cryptocurrencies. I heard a man, he was celebrating 1 year since his last bet, young man in his 20s, working in finance, worked in Midtown. He told the room of dozens of men that it had been 1 year since he bet on sports. It had been 1 year since he bet on options on platforms like Robinhood. And I was like, oh my God, these rooms are filling up with people who are struggling with trading in financial markets. And a lot of people don't even think of it as gambling. They're like, oh, because it's on Robinhood, because it's on Webull, because it's on this app, it's investing. Investing is something that wealthy people do. Investing is something that smart people do. It's intellectually stimulating, right? To follow the markets and follow all this stuff. But, as we touched on, the lines have never been thinner.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends who have lost their jobs. And then they had some money. And so then they were like, hey, let me start day trading. And then they have some wins for a period of X months. And they're like, I can make more money day trading than I can working. And so they say, you know what, guys, I'm now a trader. And sometimes you hear this and you're like, Like sometimes it's like, okay, that person, very experienced, very senior, know what they're doing, da-da-da. Other times you're a little bit like, I don't know if like this person's got the expertise or the background to make this a thing. And then after they have a few good months, they have a few bad months. And then they go into a deep, dark hole because they're investing their own money. So it's, and there's a period when they're like, I'm making money, and they do the math and they're like, this is like the equivalent of a salary. But then when they start to lose, they undo any of the gains. And then they stop going out as much. When you do talk to them, like you can tell that they're in the dumps. They start feeling bad about themselves. Their self-esteem goes south. At some point, some of them say, it's like, you know what, I need a job. And that's one of the temptations of this space, is that a lot of people do jobs for money, and it's a very reasonable,
right.
Like obviously like rationale to do a job. And so if they think, oh, I can make this money trading or gambling or investing, then and this is part of the male wiring, is like, if I'm making money at it, then it's like a job. But the problem is that it's totally volatile and unpredictable whether you'll be able to make the equivalent of a salary in any given period. And sometimes you have a bad month, 2 months, 3 months.
So psychologically, those early wins are incredibly enticing.
Yeah.
And that's what I heard from a lot of individuals. it was like a really big, juicy win in the beginning. Maybe it was on meme stocks. Maybe it was on something else that had gone viral. And then they were trying to chase that and chase that and chase that. And more often than not, they were not able to reclaim that win again. So I pitched an article to my editors last year. As a journal reporter, I'm not allowed to actively trade stocks or options, but because these trades...
how it keeps you healthy.
Right.
Like all the Wall Street Journal journalists are like the most well-balanced people around.
But because these trades have gotten so popular, I said, hey, I want to try these one-day options, the ones that you and I were just talking about.
So fun. Did they give you a little bit of money to mess around?
I had $500 to play around with for 1 week. And I got to tell you, I felt the ups and downs during the week, like when my portfolio was down, kind of took a toll on my mood. And I was like just constantly glued to these alerts that Robinhood was sending me throughout the week. It always seemed like a huge jackpot was just one trade away. Lost money most of the week. The last day, I hit an insane return on a Facebook call option. I think I turned a few $100s into more than $2,000.
Wow, it's like 7x.
Right. It was giant. I think it was like a 1,500% return or something like that. And I was in my kitchen that afternoon and my friend goes to me, it looks like you're like high or something. Like I was like buzzing with this excitement and this energy. And that evening I told like friends at a bar that I wished I could keep trading. I was like, why doesn't the journal let me do this? It was so fun. Of course, I'm glad. But I think that's what happens. You get a big win and you want to keep doing it.
Yeah. It makes you feel like a genius also.
It does.
Because it feels like, oh, I outsmarted everyone and the market.
It's hard to argue with that giant number on your screen, right?
Yeah,
showing that return. Yeah,
totally.
It's a scoreboard.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Please do hit like and subscribe and hit that bell if you want to be notified every time a new episode drops. Thank you.